Boa tarde. Sejam todos e todas bem-vindos e bem-vindas à nossa conferência. Meu nome é Nelson Bondiolli, sou pós-doutorando na Unesp de Assis, sou membro do nosso grupo de pesquisa Veredas Digitais e estarei fazendo a mediação dessa tarde para a apresentação da doutora Susan Hazan. Eu vou passar para fazer uma introdução em inglês também, mas só para deixar claro desde o começo, a doutora Susan, ela disse que durante a palestra dela, as pessoas vão poder fazer perguntas a todo momento, então se sintam à vontade para, conforme ela ir falando, quem tiver um questionamento pode escrever e a gente avisa ela, a gente fala pergunta, podem escrever em português ou podem escrever em inglês, a gente traduz para que ela possa debater os temas que forem perguntados. So, good afternoon, everyone, and good evening to all our friends abroad. My name is Nelson Bondioli. I'm a postdoc at Unesp, member of Veredas Digitais Research Group, and I'm going to be mediating today's conference. And it is truly my greatest pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Susan Hazan, who, among many activities, is the chair of the Europeana Network Association. Dr. Hazan is also Emeritus Senior Curator of New Media and Head of the Internet Office at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. And in her own words, which I found very provocative, she believes in transforming digital culture, investigating the digital practices that transform cultural experiences while augmenting and disrupting the very ethos of the museum to collect, conserve, stage, and interpret unique physical objects. I welcome Dr. Hazan, and I'm certain we are all very eager to listen to what she has to say today, and I'll let you speak. Thank you and welcome.
Okay, thank you, Nelson. That's great. Let me just put up my my PowerPoint, make sure it's working, and then we'll get going.
Sure. In the meantime, I just want to let everybody know that while Susan is speaking, if anyone has a question and would like to make comments, you can write on YouTube and we will let her know to talk and answer everything.
Okay, thank you. I see that the way this is set up, I can't see anybody and I can't see the chat. So Angelia and Nelson, if you help me, please, sure. I would love to hear from my audience who I can't see. I presume are there. Maybe you can put into a question into the chat, just so that afterwards we can read the text. Where are you? Where are you from? Just to put a little hello. So later on, when we look at the chat, we can see where you are from. At the moment, I'm talking to my screen, which is really weird because I'd like to be talking to you. I wasn't sure. Can you see my image in the video? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay. So I'm going to start, and I want to run this session as sort of an open session. My goal here, my subversive goal, is to entice you all, to introduce you all to the Europeana Network Association, and hope that you will find a way to join us, at least online. So I'm going to sort of advocate for our association, our network, and tell you about the marvelous things that we all do. We really do wonderful things, with the hope that you will sign up at the end and you will join us in our future activities. So my presentation is going to run through these different spots. A brief history of who the network is, European Association, Network Association. And then what we do mainly is work through communities. And their work is very interesting and very wide-ranged. And we invite people to join the different communities of interest, so that they can find exactly what suits their work program, their goals in life, their skill sets, and where people would like to improve on this journey, the self-made journey, and join Europeana and learn and work with us together. This is my idea to talk through this PowerPoint, this presentation. What I'm going to focus on is actually what we've been doing this year, which we've seen as a time for resilience. It's about rebuilding and recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, and a little bit about our next steps, where we're going in the network, where we're heading to. So let me take you on a journey. And all the images that you'll see are from Europeana, the collections. And I think this PowerPoint will probably go online at some point, and everything is linked, everything is titled, so you can always retrace the images and find where they've come from. So enjoy European images from our collections. The association, we see ourselves as free, open and democratic. That's very important, actually, the idea of it democratic. All the processes are internal and very democratic. And we're a community of experts, and we're working in digital cultural heritage, but we're united. And here's our shared mission: to expand and improve access to Europe's digital cultural heritage. This is about Europe, but it's also about all the world. Everybody is joining us from around the world and is using our network as a model for other associations. So you're very welcome to join. Currently, we have around 3,000 members, just over 3,000 members, and it's growing exponentially. We normally, if you could just go back to this, we normally, over the years, held our conferences, our beautiful conferences. This was in Milan in 2019 in the National Library. No, sorry, in Lisbon. We were in Lisbon. And we got together in the different meetings as without masks and in real meetings with real people. It was wonderful. And all our network came together. But this year, we held our conference just recently, a couple of weeks ago. And of course, it was held on Zoom, sadly. But we're looking forward to a time where we can get together and talk and meet and hug and have a cup of coffee together and get together in the mingling moments in between the sessions when all the real business is done. We get to know each other and we learn from each other and sit down and find out what's been happening since our previous meetup. We can't really do this in Zoom, although we do try. We've set up something called GatherTown, which is a sort of social space that we tried out in our conference, and people were invited to join us as little miniature avatars in GatherTown. It didn't work too well, but it was a nice idea. And here you can see one of the screens. You know, here it's 4 screens, I think it is, of the members at the council meeting, the network meeting a couple of weeks ago. So a quick history, and I won't bore you with all the history, but just to run through the points. It started 1995 with Gabriel, a gateway to Europe's national libraries, and the European Library opened in 2004. It was a big step, an EDL project later on 2006. And then Europeana was actually launched in 2008 and has been building in strength over the years ever since. The platform is built in 3 areas. The Europeana platform is actually the Europeana Foundation, and there's some 60 people who work in their head office in Den Haag in the Netherlands. There's the Europeana Aggregators Forum, where these are the 3 pillars of Europeana. The aggregators are the ones who will uptake the collections from anybody who has a library collection, a museum or archive internationally, and has a collection that is of interest to Europe, historically or contemporary, art, photography, archaeology, all the fields that museums and archives are interested in, Europeana is interested in too. And the 3rd pillar of the Europeana the network initiative is us, the Europeana Network Association. So we are altogether, as I said, 60 staff members in the foundation. The network is over 3,000 people. Just put that on like this. 3,000 from around the world. Everybody is volunteers. They join us in their free time. They join the conferences usually for free, our webinars, our task forces, our communities, and it's a very open community and everybody's welcome to join. There are 38 regional, national, domain and thematic aggregators who each represent a different kind of collection, either national or thematic. And altogether, we are some 4,000 archives, libraries, museums, and other cultural heritage institutions around Europe and actually around the world. So we pull in lots of collections, but it's not so much about the collections, it's about the skill sets, it's about the people and the people behind the collections and the knowledge. So that's what interests us in the initiative, working together and pulling in all this amazing experience and knowledge. The foundation is governed with a very small board, actually, supervisory board, 7 people. And I think you met yesterday Harry, our general director. He gave a presentation about Europeana, the initiative, yesterday. And this is our governance group with Albert and Hannah and Valentine. The advisory board is 17 people. Sorry, the supervisory board is actually a small group, and Elizabeth and Yoke are actually moving. They're leaving the board, the supervisory board, and we're just elected 2 more people to the supervisory board. The advisory board are made out of amazing professionals from around the world. You probably will know all these people because they're all so active in their different fields and their different activities. And they come together to advise Europeana and talk about our next steps, while also looking back a bit, but our next steps for sure. So a lot of our work takes place across the communities. Now, I said that I would like questions and I would like responses from the audience. And as I can't see anybody, Angela, I'd be happy if you would report to me any questions. I want to talk about the communities, and I would like you to think about where you would like to join, if you would like to join altogether. The idea of a community is a special interest group that we cover so many areas in Europeana that we've specified specific professional areas so that people can come together and hone their skills and their experiences and share their experiences together and help us grow together. So I'm going to run through our 6th and now our 7th community, which we're celebrating, which is really exciting. And you'll see the breadth and the depth of the work that we do all together in the network. The first one on the left is actually our more recent one. We're very excited about the Climate Action Community. That was launched just a few weeks ago in our conference, our annual conference that was held online a couple of weeks ago. And I will talk about that because that's a very, very exciting new move that's swept up our energies and our passions to include our work in the Climate Action Community. This is new for us. And obviously it's critical. And we're very happy that this was launched together with the Climate Action Manifesto. So I'll talk about that later on. The Communicators Communities is a quite large community. And these are people who come together with communication skills and influence. We have a lot of people who are very popular on blogs, who tweet a lot, even on Facebook and Instagram. YouTube, and these are people who are leading the conversations across our area of digital cultural heritage. And by an occasional tweet, we can sweep up an entire community and bring together a lot of people, like-minded people. And the Communicators community instigate these different actions and inspire others to join in. The copyright community, well, everybody knows how important copyright is. And this is one of our older communities that was launched right in quite early on in our community action. And it's about sharing knowledge, obviously, around the topic of copyright in the cultural heritage section. And I'll talk about that specifically in a minute. Our research community is open to universities and research communities, and the education is focused more on schools of the different age groups. The Europeana tech community is probably the first community that we had, and Europeana tech is a brand in itself, with years of fantastic conferences and meetings and coming together to share our information and our experiences in the R&D section and sector. And last but not least, and obviously a very important community, is the impact community. We look at the way our work is through surveys and through our actions, our own actions, create an impact on our work. And we actually measure this. And we have what we call our impact playbook. And it looks at ways we can measure these activities and bring them back into a cyclic way of learning from any action that we do, so that we can replicate, we can improve, and we can share. So I'll talk a little bit about that. The communities break down to pretty equal groups. Impact is quite a large group. The biggest one is research, it's university research. You won't see the climate group here because it's too new. It's fresh off the press. It's a month old, but the other communities are all represented here. Education, all running between 1,000, 2,000 members individually, collectively. The way that we work is through either working groups or task forces. A task force is a very specific short-term task. For example, the audiovisual playout in Europeana or the digital transformation task. It has a beginning and an end and has a very focused goal at the end. So people come together and join a task force like the Digital Transformation Task Force, or they'll join a committee, the Data Quality Committee, and for a short and limited time, they will work on a very specific task. On the other hand, there are working groups, and the working groups are permanent entities that we continue through the months. A fairly recent one is the Europeana Network Association membership working group, which looks at issues of how people enter Europeana network and how they are onboarded, how they progress through the different activities, how they make their contributions and how the contributions are received. That's quite an interesting working group. It's fairly new. And the governance, obviously, we have to have a governance working group, and the work that they do there is incredibly important. It keeps us all together and sane. And the IIIF working group is obviously focused on IIIF activities. So these are different ways that we come together in Europeana. And some examples of the task forces. Recently, we ran a fabulous task force. I don't know, has anybody taken part in our task forces? I'd like to hear, or in our community actions altogether. Is anybody a member of Europeana? If so, I'd love to hear. This very popular task force of Europeana as a platform for storytelling produced research and recommendations based on examples of interesting, engaging, and effective storytelling practices found around the web. So we had a series of case studies. It was run beautifully by Beth, with I think about 20 people meeting on a regular basis with wonderful outcomes, producing case studies, and the research behind it, what makes a platform of storytelling powerful. That was actually quite an interesting question to look at, because we have collections in Europeana, we have exhibitions, we have blogs, and we have all sorts of activities. But behind all the collections are the stories that we tell. We found that as powerful as the stories become, so our message is clearer in education and in research, in tourism, and everything we do. If we can spin a story around the collections, we have a much more powerful way of using Europe's rich collections from, over the years. So that was quite an important new task force that was run. The labeling for cultural heritage was very interesting, and the new professional task force asked the questions: what do we do with new members who come in? How do we attract new members? How do we keep Europeana open and interesting to all our new professionals? I was at a conference today in Tel Aviv. They were talking about the problem with the juniors coming into high tech. Juniors are usually not very welcome, and they should be, because here in Israel anyway, there's a problem bringing high tech individuals, highly qualified individuals, into the workspace, and juniors need a lot of mentoring and support. But if you don't mentor your young professionals, your new professionals, you're never going to get them into the workforce, and there's going to be a dire lack of membership in the workforce. So we looked at the new professionals and what their needs are, and how we could meet their needs and help them enter their working spaces in their individual countries. So basically, what is a community, and how I just express it in these different terms of reference? It's mission driven. In other words, we have a specific goal that we kind of rally around. The idea is to open up new opportunities to benefit the professional needs and interest of their members. Any member can suggest not a community, but a task force and a working group, and can promote it and galvanize the group together, bring people together to work together. And it has to come in accordance with the Europeana initiative, the strategy, obviously, but I think once people get into Europeana, it's pretty clear where we're heading. Anybody in the network can join, and if you haven't joined, then please do. And all our work is based on voluntary work, which I think is amazing. As the chair of all these 3,000 people, I'm in awe that the amount of time and energy and skills people are prepared to contribute to Europe, to Europeana. It always amazes me how people are happy to join us, to join in a webinar, to work on one of the task forces, to give their free time or their professional time to joining, to contributing to Europeana. But at the same time, there's an awful lot to be gained. And if people are active in one of the work task forces or the communities, there's so much knowledge that spins around that this is the wonderful opportunity to learn from our contemporaries, our colleagues. So on one hand, there's this kind of contribution. On the other hand, there's this reception of amazing ideas, skills, and experiences that is shareable. And that's what gives us the resilience. That's what gives us the strength. We work together to be inclusive, collaborative, caring, and respectful. This is something that's really important. I've written a number of blogs on how to work together. I have an article coming out in Digitalia next week, I hope, on mindfulness and cultural heritage. And I believe that being caring and respectful in our workplace, especially after these exhausting months of the pandemic, is our priority at the moment. It's to support each other in collaborations, to be caring and to be respectful. So these are goals, actually. They're not sort of byproducts. These are the goals of the network. And the communities actually grow organically, which is rather nice, because there's internal, external initiatives, and each group has, you'll see in a minute, has their own methodologies and work plans. And it depends on the different characters and needs and the audiences, because each community is different. But let me just read this last statement, which I think is critical. A community thrives when everyone takes responsibility and contributes what they do best. So I think that's actually very true and important. So I'm going to run through our different communities, and hopefully I'll find a hook for you to join us and to come in whatever interests you specifically.
Oh, Susan.
Yes.
We have actually a question.
Yay.
Since you are talking about, well, we have people from all over Brazil. I have some people from Europe watching us. Then later I can tell you the cities that you asked for. But just before you continue, since you said you wanted to talk with the public, and you were talking about how the community of Europeana tries to be inclusive and democratic. There is a question on the chat that I think it's worth taking a look, which is what is Europeana's position about decolonization?
Ooh. Okay, this is a new one for us. This is a very difficult question to ask, because this is one of my bees in my bonnet, as they say. Yeah, it's since Black Lives Matters exploded on the cultural heritage scene a couple of years ago, you'll see and you'll hear that cultural institutions looking backwards into their collections and looking at their post-colonial moment. And this is a very problematic moment. And it's something that we have to look at in the context, how can I explain this? In the context of the history that it came about, but not to necessarily accept the status quo that was carried forward through a tradition of replication. So in Europeana, we're looking at collections in new ways and trying to identify what went wrong. Try to identify where all the problematics crept in historically. We can't change history, but we can recognize history. And I think one of the points that we're working on in our blogs and our our exhibitions that we do, you'll see there's some very interesting exhibitions on Black Lives Matter, LGBT communities, communities that weren't necessarily put into the limelight, and they're now being openly discussed and celebrated in Europeana. We're beginning to look at things in a different way. But this is not something we can accommodate within a short time. This is a revelation that we have a process to go through. I've been chairing the association for a year. This is something we started talking about a year ago. We've come to recognition. We need to do something, and we are now trying to do that something together. But that's a whole new lecture. I'll be happy to come back and give another lecture when we have we have some more information. But meantime, we've made some very good things, very, very good starting points, but we have a long way to go. I think all museums and libraries and collections have to review their collections internationally and look to how we represent the past and reframe it, and think about the multi-voices. History can be spoken from more than one voice. For example, there's history and there's her history. Her story. Where are all the women? I personally were looking forward to doing something about researching what happened to all the women en route, but again, that's another story. Let me leave it like this. There's an awareness and understanding, and we're making the first steps, and I'd be very happy to present them, or people in the Europeana community whose their speciality could present them, because we have a very good team working in Europeana on this at the moment. Okay. Thank you for the question. Is there any others, or should I continue?
You can continue, please. Thank you.
Okay, let me jump into the Europeana tech community. Well, you techies out there, you probably belong to this community, but you didn't even know it, because it's become so well known, and people kind of link, get their weekly or monthly newsletter, or they come across them. I mean, let's go through this in LinkedIn or the newsletter, and you probably don't even know that you belong to, because everybody is in the Europeana tech community. Basically, it's a community of experts, developers, researchers, the R&D sector, which makes sure that the Europeana initiative, that's all of us, leads the way with technology innovation, within cultural heritage, and helps heritage organizations to apply the technology. So in my personal, my professional life, I was, for many, many years, a curator of new media. And this is exactly the dovetailing of these two sectors that need to come together: the curation of the content and the technology and innovation that needs to support the content, the quality content of digital cultural heritage. So this is what's happening in the Europeana tech community. The community has nearly 2,000 members and a mailing list. And on Twitter, there's 4,718 Twitters on the Twitter account, and you're welcome to join in. Just note the handle at Europeana Tech. Everybody should be there, because all the hot stuff comes off there. Just to take a look at our members, not the members, sorry, with 2,000 members. This is the steering group from Europeana. We have 3 managers. It's a very large group, and these are the members. So I won't read everything, but I just want to make sure that every time I mention a community, I recognize the different people who are running the community, because there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes, and sometimes just recognition is all they have, and a little thank you for the work they do. So what have they been doing this year in the task forces and the working groups? There was a wonderful series of webinars on AI, but in relation to GLAMs. You may have caught one of the webinars. If not, everything is online in terms of recordings. Very, very good series there. Interoperability of annotations and user sets. It's important to all of us who are trying to bring collections together, make them useful and findable in terms of annotations. The playout, the audiovisual playout in Europeana, that's very important. It's an evolving area that needs an awful lot of work, but there's a group of people who are dedicated to make this happen. And then the IIIF and Europeana Tech, who are focused on the work there. And the last particular task force that I want to recognize is the Data Quality Committee. So these are all the work that's going on behind the scenes to make Europeana what it is. So the themes at this moment that interest this particular group is the multilingualism and language technology. And this artificial intelligence is such a broad term, but nobody really knows what it means. Everybody's throwing it in, you know, oh yeah, we do AI, we've got AI in our project, but do they really know what it means? So this group is actually focusing on how AI can help the heritage community. There's IIF for the aggregators, that's very important, where they bring the introduced collections into Europeana with all the data quality issues. And last spring, the webinars on AI were so successful, there's a new series planned for 2022, so make sure you don't miss them. And some of the ideas that Europeana Tech are focusing on in the future is the Horizon Europe projects, the Technology and Starts project, including storytelling, which become really important for Europeana, distributed infrastructures, integrating into the time machine projects, and then obviously working with Wikidata in GLAMS. So let me move on to the next community, research community. This is a wonderful picture with a wonderful serious guy, but just wanted you to see, he has a cigarette in his hand. You're not going to see that these days, are you? He seems to be writing in his ledger with his ink pen with a cigarette. I think it's a cigarette. Anyway, that's a really strange picture. And I'm not advocating smoking here. So we have in the research community over 2,000 members. They're a community of professionals interested in cultural heritage, both as a subject, okay, and as a source of research. That's important. There's just objects, not just objects, but the processes behind them. And the research community aims to foster the use of digital cultural heritage in research, obviously, and the communities, the community members are from the heritage section, a third, and a quarter, well, let's say about a quarter from academic research, and about another quarter from higher education. That's the breakdown of the research community. And let me introduce you to our wonderful research community steering group. Again, I won't mention their names because you can read that yourself, but I just know individually and collectively how much work they do behind the scenes, and I would like to salute everybody. Again, this is voluntary and it's taking up time, but it's incredibly important. The research community's goals are such: to strengthen the connections between cultural heritage and research. Okay, that's very specific. And it's a way of getting members to gain a better understanding of research that's based on digital cultural heritage. And it's called here computational methods and digital tools, but you all know what we mean. We share knowledge and experience, promote digital literacy. That's really, I would like to give a lecture on digital literacy, actually. It's the key probably to everything we do. It isn't about scanning an object. It isn't about writing a blog. Digital literacy is what we believe in, that the entire sector of cultural heritage, you need to be digitally literate in able to maintain your actions in this case research community. That's that skill set that needs to be taught. And then one of the focuses this year has been the potential of citizen science, which is really interesting because it means it's open collections, open publications, shared knowledge, and vast databases where people can join in and transcribe things together. And another factor that the community has, another goal they have, is a commitment to take actions that have an impact on policy. I like that goal. I think it's very good. They had an enormous, well, not enormous, 400 people, but that's actually quite good, a symposium in May with professional policymakers and academics and researchers, the different groups coming together. And everything we do on Europeana, the network, is recorded and it is documented. It means you can go back and watch all these videos. So when you're bored and you're in between let's say, watching television or reading your newspaper or on the train or whatever, in a free moment, put your earplugs in and go and listen to one of our videos or recordings on Europeana Pro. It's great stuff there. The report, the task force report came out this year, a survey on the reuse of digital cultural heritage, about accessing and processing and publishing the cultural heritage assets and data sets, and the different problems that obviously we all face. Skills and training, and then the awareness of the Europeana Open Science Cloud. That's another focus. Again, you can find the report on Europeana. So if this is something that says, yeah, I really need to read that, that's something that's really going to help me in my daily work, then you can find it on Europeana.
Susan.
Yes.
I got a question. Does Europeana offer training on digital manipulation?
Okay. Until now, we've offered informal webinars and conferences and meetups, things like that. We're now moving into more formalized training in certain areas. One of the areas is in leadership in the field. Another area is going to be in climate action. And these programs are being created now behind the scenes. And we are moving more and more into training activities, which we'll be able to announce hopefully in a few weeks. But I see this happening behind the scenes, and I think this is great because Europeana has an awful lot to share. One of the things we're discussing is the certification of our different courses, so that if people do train in Europeana and they take the time to take a course, they have a certification, professional certification at the end. So that's something we're looking into at the moment. But it'll take time, but it's happening behind the scenes.
And just so a personal question then, are this type of certification and training, will they be free too, or they will be charged? How do you believe it will be the model of it?
I can't tell you at the moment. As far as the model at the moment is free, but I don't know how that's sustainable that is, so we have to look into that. But certainly in our pilots, they're going to be free. And later on, when we start building long-term training activities, then we will think about probably a nominal price. I don't think we're interested in making money here. We're trying to be sustainable so that we can keep this going. I don't have an answer to that, and it's something I will take back and bring to our council and talk about that in our council. We have a meeting tomorrow. Something we can talk about tomorrow.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yep, you can continue, please.
Yeah, please keep the questions going, coming. Not going, coming, because it helps me focus. I can't see anybody. I don't know if you're all asleep or not. I have no idea. So,
no, we're very awake.
Okay, I will continue. Now to education. So this is who our steering group are. And I will say thank you to everybody here for doing amazing work. An awful lot of work is being done in education. And again, I'm not going to mention all the names, but you probably have come across everybody's name somewhere in the field because they're very loud and powerful in what they do. So anybody who's in education and would like to make a contribution, then contact this particular group. So what have they done recently? Well, education affects everybody. There are, in Facebook, there are 5,000 followers. In LinkedIn, there are 1,000 followers. And then the members in the actual members are over 1,000. And the listserv, I can't remember how number it is, the number's hidden here, but there's a very large listserv. So they have lots of different communication activities and ways to get their activities disseminated across the web. Some of the activities they took part in this year, the Porto Santo Charter, a very important charter that took place actually in Portugal, and discussing democratization of cultural democracy and rethinking institutions and practices. This is a process that's going on at the moment across the sector about democratizing our collections, to make things more accessible, to make things more fair, and rethinking how institutions work together. This is the opening of a beginning steps of a process, and it's something we'll take with us in the years to come. Now, the way this happened, because of the pandemic, in our tradition of meeting together in different countries, in different cities, in different offices, obviously everything went online. And this is a Miro board that we use. I'm sure you've all moved to digital tools. We'll use Miro boards on obviously Zoom, any tool that we can move to that helps us communicate together, stay together. And this was a debate that came out of the Porto Santo Charter, where one of the conversations in the virtual debate was words matter. And that's incredibly important, because when you use words, do you understand the power that your words have? And in democratizing cultural heritage, words are a very, very important tool. This was discussed online, and the Miro boards are still available. You can see the process, as well as documenting the outcomes, the impact of what we do. Our processes are usually recorded and accessible. This is the Asian Europeana perspective, and Europeana seeks to make connections across the world, not just Europe. And this was a seminar that took place in the summer with quite a lot of participation, opening up a lot of new opportunities and avenues for educators in Asia, across Asia. Stories and collecting. This was a very nice workshop that took place online in the social sciences, humanities social sciences net, about storing and collecting to promote cultural heritage. I'll run through this a bit faster, I think, because I have quite a lot to get through. I like this particular one, the water awareness webinar that took place, and you can look at the quality of the work that was done in the comics here, and how the education awareness of water took place. In Romania, the course online was in Romanian. I'm sure I can't tell you much about that because I can't read it, but my wonderful contemporaries, Olympia and Christina, I know are incredibly talented people, and if they ran this course, then it must have been really useful. So if anybody there speaks Romanian, then please contact our Romanian council members. Copyright office hours. I'll talk about that when I get to copyright. So this was a shared copyright office hour meeting between copyright and education. So there's a specific questions about copyright and education which are very different from the generic questions about copyright. There's a whole different set of usage. So in May, there was a very nice online seminar. So these calls took place every 6 weeks. These were not recorded. Our office hours are not recorded because they're very kind of intense meetings, and people are very free to speak. So this is probably an exception where our meetings are not recorded, but there's reports. You can read the reports on them. A wonderful program built with bits, which is still going on. It's an educational program across different schools. There's a competition, and using Minecraft, schools were mentored into using cultural heritage of our collections in Europeana, bringing them into Minecraft and creating their new worlds. So this was a lovely activity. And in a couple of weeks, I think, in January, there's the final slide on this. There's the workshop, the final workshop will be exhibiting the results of these projects that were built with bits. So these are educational activities in Minecraft. Lovely experience for education, for children in schools. So copyright. We can't finish this without copyright. The roundup here. So the copyright community aims to aid practitioners in a very professional support in the cultural heritage sector to navigate copyright in the collections. Don't we all need a little compass to navigate our collections? And help them or us advocate for adequate institutional support around copyright, and lastly, to provide guidance. about how to contribute to adequate legal frameworks in their countries. And you know, all across Europe, every legal frameworks are all different. And this is something that needs to be negotiated between institution and institution, country and country. And the copyright community are specs in this. Meet the steering group, these wonderful people. I haven't seen these people in months. I haven't sat down and had a cup of coffee with anybody in months, and I miss everybody terribly, because traditionally we'd sit down and have our meetings, you know, face to face in a room and thrash out all our differences and all expectations and bring together our different experiences. But you know, we're just saying hello to these little windows on the other side of the world over Zoom or however it is we meet. And actually miss all these people. So let me take you to the penultimate group. Any questions, by the way, Nelson?
No, you can continue. People also have a little bit delay, but I think on the copyright, people will be interested. I know I have a few questions, but I'll wait for you to talk about.
So copyright has got a very nice group. There's 1,000 subscribers to the mailing list, 1,737 Twitter followers. And if you'd like to take their tweet handle, Europeana IPR, so you can follow the conversations. They all happen first on Twitter. For some reason, they break on Twitter. And then you kind of go back and follow the links and you see where the conversations took place. This is a very active community and an awful lot going on. Some of the things they did this year was the webinars, very good webinars. There's a community work plan, and there's a how-to guide for labeling cultural heritage. That's incredibly important. And how to use copyright when sharing data. The copyright tools and resources and everything you wanted to ask about copyright and didn't know where to ask your question. And where you can ask your question are the copyright office hours. So we support each other with these different challenges. Copyright office hours meet every 6 weeks. Again, I don't think these are recorded, but it means that you can come together with your colleagues and in an informal discussion and ask the questions you're too embarrassed to ask anywhere else. And the new series is starting in February. We just had a very successful, very popular series. So come back in February and join the copyright office hours. The labeling task force, that was a very difficult project, very successful. And this is all documented online. You can go back and into the page of the Europeana copyright community and trace all this information. And this is the labeling task force. And they worked for months on this to bring this together. And one fun thing was an Open GLAM translation sprint. And the sprint meant people came together in real time and organized a translation with 34 translations of our public domain related documents, and bringing these people together in the same time and having people transcribe and work together was thrilling, absolutely thrilling. So the result was 34 translations, but the process was an absolute delight. So highly recommend Open GLAM translation sprints because they're fun, they're useful, and they're very important. So the management guidelines that we keep repeating and rebuilding are actually available, and you can follow them online. They are a living process. They change as things evolve. And our communication tools of copyright are available, sort of online booklets, celebrating a multilingual public domain. That's quite important for our goals this year. The artificial intelligence and copyright, the copyright reform in education, orphan works, we all know how difficult that is to manage, and the problem of the missed deadline, the state of play of copyright directive. So these are materials that are available to the public that have come out of European copyright activities. Okay, impact communities, that's a lovely image. They are walking, and as they walk with their flags, they are making impact. What does it mean to be an impact member of the community? There are community of professionals interested in the impact of the cultural heritage sector on the people who interact with its actions and services. So as a group, they're eager to discuss the value of impact and the challenges that we face when assessing it. If you've ever measured the impact of any of your projects, you'll know how satisfying this activity is. It's not so much about doing something, it's understanding the value of what you've done and being able to replicate it in the future in terms of success or failure. And if you don't do that, then you will never learn and you'll stay exactly where you are. So the impact community specialize in how to evaluate different processes and actions. And their aim is to constantly improve the daily work so that it's in line with the needs of audiences and other relative stakeholders. They support members to develop and refine the practice of impact assessment. Did you know there's a practice of impact? Hands up in the audience who practices impact assessment and awareness. Do we have anybody in the chat? Are there any professionals as this is their daily work, measuring impact and awareness? No? I don't know. I can't see, but hopefully there are people out there, because if they're not, you should have somebody in your organization to do exactly that. And if you need the tools, then come to Europeana Impact Community and pick up the tools and take them back to your office. So contributing to the ongoing development of impact practitioners and the transfer of knowledge and shared skills, tools and resources around impact. And to communicate with our networks and audiences beyond the community to the importance and value of impact assessment and the utility of the Impact Toolkit Playbook. There's a series of playbooks. I think number 3 has come out now. And these enable you to run assessment and evaluation processes as a group or individually, and to have tools that you can actually measure your impact. Very, very useful, actually quite fun to do. And here's our wonderful steering group. I don't have pictures of everybody here. It's a shame. Anyway, these are people who have come together and who are promoting impact and working together to create the different playbooks and the tools that are available. The community has a page on Pro with all the tools on it, a bi-monthly newsletter, listserv, and a LinkedIn group. So if you don't have it, if you don't do anything else and you don't have impact in your institution, then join at least one of these groups. You'll learn an awful lot. The tools and resources include the Impact Playbook. You can download that for free and you can start using that tomorrow or tonight. If you don't want to wait till tomorrow, you can join the webinars. You can learn about the case studies and the work plans. And there's a light task force, Impact Light task force you can join or you can learn about. And a new project that's around the idea of impact is the Indices project. So we're bringing that on board with results of that project in the moment. The impact webinars, these are links. So if this is available, the PowerPoint is available, you can click on the links. These are the reports and the link to the symposium and the question bank, which is really important. And this is the new impact playbook, which has now been reviewed and published, phase 3. So all these blue links are there. Yes, they're all live links. So download this PowerPoint before you go home. Make sure you have it available at work tomorrow and start creating impact in your work, in your daily routine. Let's move on to the communicators. Any questions, Nelson?
Actually, I have one about the copyrights, because I think that it probably the time-consuming aspect of everything. I believe. Would it be a correct assessment to think that copyrights is probably the most problematic area?
I think if you're proficient and you know what you're doing, it's very quick because you know what you're doing. You need to imbibe the rules of copyright and understand the processes. And once you have them at your fingertips, then it's actually very easy. But if you think about the area of copyright without that knowledge, it's pretty scary because you can get lost. Yeah. But hey, why not learn it? You know, why not take download, some of our webinars or some of our reports, and find out how easy it is once you know what you're doing. I must admit, this is not my field, and I still am shy of activating the copyright regulations, and I will probably defer to another colleague. But there are enough people in Europeana who this is their speciality, and they can give us guidance and help us get through, navigate this kind of very messy forest of options. Okay, should I continue to communicators?
Yes, please.
Okay, this community is a specialist community of 1,500 professionals who work in and around communications in the cultural heritage section. Now, what does that mean? Because we all communicate, don't we? But this is a bunch of people who are passionate about promoting digital cultural heritage and action. And we support each other to be the best communicators we can. Communicating something is just as important as doing it. If you don't communicate, disseminate what you've done, nobody else will know about it. It's like that phrase, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, did the tree fall? So communicators have an incredibly important task to share activities, and in our case, to share Europeana activities beyond our little silo of Europeana activities, and move to shunt our activities beyond those walls and share them beyond Europeana space or network. This is our group. I'm happen to be a co-chair here, so this is something that's very close to my heart. I like communicating, you may have noticed, but I like communicating. This is our wonderful group. Peter Sommers is the chair. And again, I can't name everybody because I'll never get through all this, but I'm incredibly proud of the work that this group is doing. So what do? We contribute to Europeana knowledge by supporting the development and promotion of training resources and tools or activities. So if we've got it, we want to tell you about it, because there's no point us having a training resource or a tool or an activity unless you know about it. So that's one of the things that we see as a priority. And upskilling, we equip members with digital communication skills in our storytelling task force, for example. We inspire. Okay, so we like to share examples of digital culture in action. We have fun on Twitter. We do all sorts of activities around memes, workshops on memes, and Twitter sessions. And we find fun ways to disseminate Europeana in all sorts of strange ways, but actually a lot of fun. And we make these connections. We try to be an excellent communication hub between community members and Europeana. This also extends beyond our Europeana initiative, because one of the most important things, once we've connected between the members and the different pillars of Europeana, we need to extend these actions beyond the communities. So some of the activities that happened this year was a digital storytelling task force. And what came out of that was a series of 10 tips and resources. If you want to learn about this, about storytelling and what we learned from storytelling, download the reports, the webinars. So much fun. This particular task was run by Beth Daly. To understand what we're doing in the community, obviously we have lots of surveys, and I'm sure everybody's bored by surveys now, but they're critical to understand what our community members need and want. We have presentations and blog posts and regular tracking of questions and requests from community members. Let me see if I have this page. Yeah, the 1,200 subscribers on the monthly newsletter, the mailing list, LinkedIn group, community pages everybody else has in Europeana Pro, and the email and social media accounts of the steering group. And we all support each other and tweet all the time, or in Instagram or whatever it is. So we will use each other's handles to kind of augment our voices and set things out. So if somebody has a few hundred or possibly 1,000 of followers, if we use their handle on Twitter, we extend our reach exponentially. So that's something we understand the process and we really enjoy using. So we develop professional skills with access to communication tools, resources and training, and we try and keep up to date with the latest communication news from our sector. And we're trying to find ways of bringing other people's calls and actions from alternative sectors into the community. And our goal is to share across, to connect our community across Europe, but actually beyond. And you guys are the beyond. So guys, beyond, come and join us and see what our community does. That's Brazil. I mean, anybody out there in Brazil, anywhere else that's Europe, are more than welcome. And you too can expand your network in the cultural heritage sector. Okay, I've come to our last but not least climate action group. Our last community is actually a group that turned into a community just 3 weeks ago, I think, with the realization that we need to take supportive and critical action to do something in our field of digital cultural heritage to combat what's happening to our climate. So who we are, the professionals at all levels who work in the digital cultural heritage sector. And we acknowledge, and this is something that we acknowledge very publicly and very vociferously, that climate change is an emergency. We believe that the cooperative action is required to reverse the momentum. So we're looking for ways to drive impactful, cooperative and sustainable action to address the climate emergency and the environmental impact of our life and our work in our digital transformation of the cultural sector. And we aim for wider systemic change within our organizations and networks. So this is an open invitation to join. If you care about your climate, not your climate, our climate, we have some very interesting good practice recommendations, how to choose a server that is not producing vast quantities of carbon into the air, how you can do a cleanup of your data, very practical steps you can take in your institution about reducing your carbon footprint and your impact on the climate in the area of digital cultural heritage. It's a very small area, but we have some very important steps to take. And this is one of the areas we're going to create training processes on, because we feel that through our own experience, we have a lot to share. And in the cultural heritage sector, the digital sector, Europeana has monitored and created regulations and recommendations for the sector, which we hope to share in the near future. This is really quite new. So mapping climate action in arts and culture was organized by the original, the European Network Association Climate Action Group, which grew from our meeting in Lisbon 2 years ago. One of the first things they did was the mapping of the climate action. You can see that online, and how to organize a green event. So that was actually a very interesting project. And Europeana as such has now become a sustainable green institution in terms of their kitchen, in terms of an impact across our whole sector, and it's continuing to do so. Just a month ago, we launched our Manifesto for Climate Action, which is all about planning, collaborating, operational, and advocating. And this was a very nice celebrating moment. And you see here Barbara here, she's our climate action activist who has led this process for more than 2 years with other people in that group, with Killian and Peter. And this is Harry, we met, I think, yesterday. He's our director of Europeana, and Anne-Marie, who is our sometimes feels like free fall into a swimming pool. That's me up there jumping in. But knowing there's thousands of people below me to share these activities together, we work as a group, we work as a very potent network of people. So it's actually incredibly pleasurable and fascinating to work with so many amazing people. Our priorities this year are about, they change from time to time. This is what we announced at the beginning of the year, about supporting capacity building in digital and in digital transformation. And of particular interest to me was looking at the potential of our members when they are brought into or come into, they enter into the network, what happens in that process, what they do, where they contribute, what they get out of it, what they need, what they want. Our inclusivity and diversity program took off this year. And there's been a lot of impact on how we've changed our the way we look at our community in terms of inclusivity and diversity. And you'll see this in the blogs and in the curatorial work, in our meetings, in our choice of speakers. That's something I'm very proud of that's happening this year and will continue. Our collaboration with the foundation has just grown, and now we work together with the Advocates Forum across wider networks. And most important, we are transparent, accountable, and democratic. And obviously, there's lots of work that has to be done in funding and payments and stuff and the different mechanisms, but that probably doesn't interest you that much. And if it does, you can contact me privately. So the task forces that emerged this year, this digital leadership program, and innovation development program, which is fairly new, the Europeana capacity building framework, it's just taken off now, digital transformation, the task force, what we mean by digital transformation, how can we support this across the sector, and our cross-initiative task force on diversity and inclusion. And the last one is this new membership group that I'm chairing that looks at the process of how people join the network and what they do when they get there. I'm probably repeating myself now, but that's one of my babies that I really care about. At the beginning of November, we had our annual conference, and it was about recovering, rebuilding, and growing. Very, very successful. And what we're looking forward to in the next year is to produce further benefit to our members of being part of the Europeana family, and to become an exemplary model for the whole cultural heritage sector and beyond, and to build on our powerful instruments, our council, our communities, working groups, and task forces. This is what we do. We will continue to do. We will build on these tools. And I'm extremely proud of the work that we do. And more aspirations in our strategy for the future, the near future, is to build on the Green Deal in our climate action, the new Europeana Bauhaus, which is very inspirational. It's about beauty. It's about building, living together, sharing together. A digital space for culture, an evolving European digital space for culture that Europeana is supporting and spearheading. And the digital transformation capacity building, which is an ongoing act or set of actions that we do to support our sector. So why would you want to join us? Well, I haven't made it obvious, then I really done a disservice to our network. You have lots of reasons to join us. So why not, is my question. Europeana is Europe's platform for digital cultural heritage. We empower the cultural heritage sector in digital transformation. Our website is built from 4,000 institutions across Europe. It's all available for free online. And we work to share and promote this heritage, our shared heritage, so it can be used and enjoyed by people across the world. And teachers and learners can find images, text, audio, video, also 3D, and anything from art to science in over, wait for this, 37 languages, including Portuguese. So go search with over 80 million objects, items in the collection, and 20 million is openly licensed and can freely reused for education purposes. So those are some good reasons why you should join us. And if you would like to see the benefits more specifically, you can join a community, you can collaborate with our colleagues and your colleagues, you can lead your community, make a difference and influence the sector, keep informed, and of course to participate in events. And here is the sign up page. you haven't found it already, because I'm sure as I've been speaking, you've been running, where's Europeana, where's the sign up page? And when I get back to my system tomorrow morning, I will see hundreds of people who've just signed up from all over Brazil, hopefully. So at this point, I'll just say thank you. And we hope to see you in one of our events or our task forces or communities in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I think you showed us great reasons indeed. There are a lot of comments, people saying it was a very interesting conference, people saying that they learned a lot. That it was an incredible conference. And we also have a question from Eduardo, and he wants to know who gives Europeana support to deal with these questions concerning climate problems. I believe I will extrapolate, but I think he's probably asking if there is any connection to organizations or even politicians or anything like that.
Yeah, these actions are all networked across the sector. Nobody can act alone. We've just joined the different actions. I'm just trying to think of the name. There's a series of initiatives that we have already joined and we will be joining, and this will all be available on our Europeana Pro site in the future. As this tomorrow, we'll have a meeting, a full-day meeting, and we will just have to vote for all these processes tomorrow as a group. And once this has gone through our meeting tomorrow, the board and the council, this will go online. So this is going to happen tomorrow, basically. But it's all fresh, so it's rather nice, actually. Yeah, there's lots of climate action, and we have to work together in the sector. But we have a very special voice, because our voice is about the digital aspect of cultural heritage. And that's what we think is important in our contribution. That's where we come in.
I see. Thank you. I hope this answered the question. Eduardo, if you want to know more, you can say.
Yeah, yeah.
I also have a question about the impact, because you talked a lot about it. But what I want to know is if you could briefly just tell us a little bit about how do you define impact? Like, how do you define Europeana impact? Like, how do you analyze it?
I think you look at a series of actions. You have a starting point and you have an end goal, and you have a change path that allows you to go from your original objective to reach your goal. And this change path is a series of actions that you need to iterate, you need to go through to get where you want to go. But you can't start this change point until you know where you want to go. So the objective and the end point has to be defined before you start. And then you work together and you think about the process to go from stage A to stage B through this change mechanism. And there's a series of sort of diagrams that you can follow. There's a series of workshops that you can run for your team and think together. And these are very valuable activities because you work together as a team, think together as a team, and everybody brings to the table their own perspective, which is usually different from others. So you can have a collaboration moment along, let's say, the change path, and people bring into that path what they feel they can contribute, they feel is possible, and they feel is welcome. And together in this collaborative moment, you build up a process that allows you to reach your end goal. That's one scenario. And there's the Impact Playbook is a series of scenarios like this that allow you to evaluate and measure your changes and the impact on the work that you've done.
Yeah, because I think that the measuring part is the difficult part. How do you transform everything you do into numbers so you can measure it? You know, you need standards. You need I don't know, KPIs. You know, you need to know how well you're doing. So how you assess this impact, I think.
But there's qualitative and there's quantitative measurements. Yes. Okay, the qualitative is easy. You run a survey, you ask people, you count numbers. The qualitative is more difficult to ascertain, and that's the human process. And that's a way to find words to describe what's happening, how you're professionally or emotionally impacted by what you do. So the qualitative aspects are actually more difficult. So measuring is one part of it, but there are other phases to go through as well.
I understand. And I would like to say that since you started in the beginning asking where people are from, we have a lot of people from São Paulo, a lot of people in the countryside of São Paulo. We also have people from other states, from Mato Grosso, from Santa Catarina, that are watching us and commenting. And there were some people that were interested in the webinars, so we sent the links for the webinars. People wanted to know about that too. And I don't know, I think that's it. If anyone else has a question, the time is now, or else we can proceed to the end. Paulo, do you want to ask anything? We have more people saying it was a great conference. Thank you for your time and for speaking.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Okay, then I will say goodbye to you all.
Yes.
And find you all online.
Yes.
Paulo wants to say something.
No, Paulo, thank you. I think seu microfone, Paulo.
Desculpe. Eu vou fazer uma pergunta no chat.
Okay, Paulo is going to ask something on the chat for us. We have people from Vienna too.
Vienna?
Vienna, yes.
Okay.
And thank you for the presentation. So let me see. Okay, so I'm just going to wait for Paulo's question. Oh, actually, there was a question before asking if I'm going to change it just a little bit so you can answer. What do you think if Europeana and all these projects, they are a positive aspect of globalization?
Say it again? I'm not sure I understood the question.
Sure. If the efforts of Europeana, everything that's being built, the archives, everything that's being reunited, all the people that are involved, if this is a positive aspect of globalization, of globalizing?
That's an interesting question. Probably not something I've thought about it. Europe is the heart of the world. I'm born and bred in Europe, so I see the Europe culture as being Europe-centric, and I can't think of it any other way. I've never lived in America or South America or the Southeast Pacific. I can't see our perspective from anywhere else except European-centric. So my personal perspective is from Europe and the cultural heritage of Egypt, Greek, Latin, traditions that I've grown up with and Europeana represents. And possibly we can't see past our borders. But in terms of global reach, that we have 37 different languages or 27 active languages that you can search on in Europe and Europeana, that means in itself we have a global reach. Because we can actually talk to people can talk to us in languages other than the Franco-lingo of English. We can actually make our collections accessible internationally in terms of language, and that's quite global, I would think. I'm not sure if it's enough, but it's a start.
Okay.
Paolo, you got your question coming?
Yes. Paulo wants to know if you think it's viable to think of Latin America or even a Brazilian model of organization and diffusion of cultural archives.
Well, I'm sure that Europeana will be very happy to share its model, EDM model, for example, or our communities model with. Would be wonderful to share with Brazil, with South America, with anybody who'd be interested. It's a model that can be exported and shared, absolutely. We could start on a very small scale, maybe this is something that Harry spoke about yesterday. Did you broach on this yesterday with him, our director? He's the one to talk to, not me.
I see. Okay, thank you, Susan. And I would like then to thank everyone that was watching us, everyone that was participating, everyone that sent their questions and communicated. And thank you, Susan, for her time and for everything. I think it was a great presentation, an in-depth presentation about Europeana. I think we all understand a lot more of how it works. So thank you very much for that. I think we're all interested. And this is it for our session.
Come and join us. Come and sign up.
Yes. Come and sign up to Europeana. Thank you, everybody. This was a session from Eva Minerva São Paulo, an event that is being organized by UNESCO and our research group, Veredas Digitais. And I thank you all. And that's it.
Thank you, Nelson. Thank you. Thank you, Paulo.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.